What if I told you that every person who has created an extraordinary life started with a belief that most people would call delusional? Think about it. How many times have you heard stories of successful people, from world-changing innovators to self-made entrepreneurs, who held on to a vision that seemed impossible at the time? A vision that others told them was too ambitious, too unrealistic, maybe even a little crazy. Yet somehow those crazy ideas became the driving force behind their success. Now, when we talk about being delusional, we're not talking about losing touch with reality. We're talking about holding on to a vision or belief that may seem irrational or impossible to others, but not to you. It's that belief in something more, something bigger, even when there's no evidence to support it, yet. In everyday life, society often discourages these kinds of beliefs. You've probably been told to be realistic, to play it safe, or that certain dreams are just too far-fetched. But here's the truth. Most of the people who changed the world, whether in business, art, or even in their personal lives, had to break through those mental barriers first. They had to be willing to believe in something no one else could see. In this video, we're going to explore why being a little delusional isn't just a quirky idea. It's a powerful tool for shaping your life into what you truly want it to be. By the end, you might just realize that your wildest dreams aren't so wild after all. But is it really possible to shape your reality through a little bit of delusion? Stay with me to find out. How many dreams have we abandoned simply because they seemed unrealistic? Think about it. How many times have you stopped yourself from pursuing what you truly wanted? Out of fear? Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of stepping outside the boundaries that society says are normal. But here's the thing. There's a difference between harmful delusion, the kind that disconnects you from reality, and productive delusion, the kind that propels you toward a future that doesn't exist yet, at least not for everyone else. Productive delusion is about believing in something before it becomes real to the outside world. It's about holding on to a vision, even when there's no visible evidence that it's possible, yet. This idea has been echoed by some of the greatest thinkers in personal development. Neville Goddard calls it living in the end, acting as if your desired reality already exists, feeling it, embodying it before it manifests. And Joe Dispenza teaches us about the power of future self-embodiment, becoming the person you aspire to be before the world reflects it back to you. Think of being delusional as having a North Star. It might seem far away, distant, maybe even unreachable to others. But to you, it's guiding every step you take. It's your constant reminder of where you're headed, even when others can't see the path. But here's the question. Is it really possible to create the life you want by holding on to beliefs that others think are irrational? Let's start with Steve Jobs, the man who believed, when no one else did, that a personal computer could be in every home. In the early days of Apple, Jobs was considered delusional. His ideas seemed impossible, even laughable, but he held on to his vision relentlessly. Today, we live in a world where his delusion is the reality we all depend on. What if Steve Jobs had listened to the doubters, the people who told him to be realistic? Then there's Oprah Winfrey. She was born into poverty, faced unimaginable challenges throughout her childhood, and experienced rejection after rejection in her early career. Many would have thought it was delusional for someone like her, coming from where she did, to believe she could become one of the most powerful voices in media. But she held on to her vision. She didn't let her circumstances define her. And now, Oprah is a household name, a beacon of empowerment for millions. And then we have Walt Disney, a man who was fired from his first job for lacking imagination. The same man who would go on to dream up Disneyland, a concept that, at the time, seemed utterly insane. People told him he was crazy, that a theme park like that would never work, but he didn't give up. Walt Disney's delusional idea didn't just succeed, it became a cultural phenomenon, inspiring countless generations of dreamers around the world. What do these stories have in common? All of these people, Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey, Walt Disney, held onto a vision that the world wasn't ready for. Their ideas seemed impossible, unrealistic, even delusional. But they didn't let that stop them. They let their delusions guide them toward the extraordinary. Now imagine, what would have happened if they listened to the voices telling them to be realistic? What if Steve Jobs hadn't pursued the personal computer? What if Oprah had accepted that someone from her background could never reach the heights of success she has today? What if Walt Disney had let the world's doubts crush his vision of Disneyland? So now, I'll ask you, what vision are you holding on to that the world isn't ready for yet? What dream do you have that might seem a little delusional to everyone else? Now let's talk about the science behind all of this. You might be wondering, how can holding on to a belief that seems unrealistic or delusional actually change anything in your life? Well, according to neuroscience, our brains don't always distinguish between what's real and what's imagined. If you believe in something strongly enough, your brain starts to rewire itself to support that belief. This is where the work of people like Dr. Joe Dispenza comes in. Dispenza has shown that through the process of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, we can literally reshape our minds. By focusing on a vision, even one that hasn't come to pass yet, we begin to create new neural connections that align with that future reality. Imagine this. You're holding on to a belief that you'll become a successful entrepreneur, even when the odds are stacked against you. Your friends might think you're out of touch, but in your mind, it's as real as anything else. Over time, your brain starts to form pathways that support this vision. You begin to see opportunities where others don't, take actions that align with your goal, and eventually, you create the reality that once seemed impossible. So, does that mean we can just think our way to success? Is it really that simple? Just hold on to a vision and everything will fall into place? Not quite. There's more to it. We've explored how holding on to a vision that others might see as delusional can be a powerful tool to shape your reality. But here's the critical piece. Belief alone isn't enough. To create the life you truly desire, you must align your actions, thoughts, and emotions with that vision. It's about embodying the future version of yourself, not just imagining it. It's about taking steps, no matter how small, that bring you closer to that reality. Think of it like this. Holding a delusional belief is your compass, but your actions are the steps you take on the journey. Without movement, the vision remains just that, a vision. But with action, that delusion begins to materialize into your lived reality. So what does it mean to embody that future version of yourself? It means asking yourself, what thoughts would I have if I were already living that life? What habits would I build? How would I carry myself? And then you begin living in alignment with that version of you now. When you embody your vision, you close the gap between where you are and where you want to be. You make that delusion feel real, not just in your mind, but in your actions, in your emotions, in your daily life. Now, I want to leave you with a challenge. What vision are you holding back on because it seems impossible? What dream have you convinced yourself isn't realistic? And what would happen if you allowed yourself to fully believe in it, no matter what others think, if you gave yourself permission to act on it today? Because in the end, being a little delusional isn't about escaping reality, it's about creating it. At the core of every great achievement, there's always been someone who dared to hold on to their vision, even when the world told them it was impossible. The greatest change comes from those who are bold enough to hold on to their delusions, despite what reality says. And now, I invite you to embrace this mindset in your own life. What dreams have you been holding back on because they seem too unrealistic? What beliefs have you allowed others to invalidate because they didn't understand your vision? The truth is, you don't need the world to validate your vision. Your belief is enough to begin shaping reality. So remember this: your belief has power. The vision you hold today, no matter how delusional it may seem, can become tomorrow's reality if you nurture it with unwavering belief and purposeful action. Let your belief guide you, let it strengthen you, and most importantly, let it drive you to create the life you truly desire. Thank you for being amazing. Until next time, stay empowered.